Hello everyone and welcome back to yet another episode of Jose's Totally Rad Life. This is going to be a follow-up video to the video that I made here. This video about how I maintain and keep my vintage cassette players working. The only difference is this video is going to be about common problems or common mistakes that will cost your cassettes. So if you've ever had a cassette get eaten in your tape machine and you remember it looking like that, and then you remember putting it back in and then there's ways to prevent that, steps you can take. And in today's video I'm going to show you what you can do to make your cassettes last longer, and common mistakes that people made back in the cassette's heyday that inevitably destroyed the tapes. Coming up next.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
So, vinyl has made a huge comeback, but many of you know that I am a huge advocate for the cassette format. I love when a veteran artist or a movie like Top Gun Maverick or Bohemian Rhapsody release a pre-recorded cassette of the music or soundtrack, or vice versa. Well, like people who released music and soundtracks onto cassettes back in their heyday, legacy acts like Tears for Fears, Def Leppard, Journey, and Bon Jovi, just to name a few. I get really, really excited, particularly with cassette releases, because long before people like Taylor Swift, Chappell Roan, Shawn Mendes, and Sabrina Carpenter, and people like Kendrick Lamar as well, long before any of those guys started putting out music on cassettes, these guys pioneered that originally back in their heyday, and these are relatively newer releases, as recent as Bohemian Rhapsody going back as recent as 2018, 2019. This is a unofficial release. I made that, but as far as official releases go, 2018, 2022, 2022, 2022, 2024, and 2024. So these are all basically brand new. See, 2022, Journey's album Freedom on cassette, next to 1988, Journey's greatest hits. So in today's video, I'm going to show you guys some common things that people did when cassettes were at the peak of their popularity, right? Many of you who were there 40 years ago, who grew up using cassettes, this is probably a very familiar sight to you. But to my peers who have probably never even seen a cassette, this is what people's music collections used to look like. Now, we talked about the preservation of home hi-fi stereo. We talked about the preservation of the portable Walkman. And today we are going to talk about cassette players in your car. So I'm gonna drive over to a friend's house. Their car has a cassette deck, and I'll get back to you guys. All right, you guys. So before I show you this, I got something I want to show you. And no, it is not a phone slot. Bruh, this car's got a phone slot. No. So before CDs and before touchscreen and streaming, in vehicles, you first had AM radio, followed by FM radio, and then you had 8-track tapes. I'm going to be doing videos on 8-track tapes. And then you had cassettes, and 8 tracks and cassettes really helped change how people listen to music while driving, right? So you got this AM FM radio, right? You got this AM FM radio. Let's see here. See right there? We got AM FM. We got a really nice tape deck here. Here you can see the Dolby system. So before you could stream music, if you were driving, before the 8-track tape and before the cassette tape were invented, if you wanted to listen to music, AM FM radio was the only thing that you had. So along comes tape cassettes, right? And here's an example, Journey's Greatest Hits. So, right, you would open the tape like this, and you would put it in there like that. And this, if you didn't want to listen to what was on the radio, then this would be your music, right? You take the tape, put it in there, and this would be your music. Now, a common thing that many people would do with these. All right. So, a common thing that many people would do back in the day with their cassettes, right, is they would stick them in here, right, and then, you know, many people did not bother to use a audio head cleaner, so that's what it looks like there. And there's a soft eject. Now, many people would put their cassettes in here. For example, we have Journey's Greatest Hits, and they would put the cassette in, right? And, you know, you'd be driving around, right? You'd be driving around listening to Journey's Greatest Hits. And a common mistake that will cost your cassette dearly is, you know, rather than ejecting it, say we get to the place we'd like to go. Many people made these mistakes back in cassette's heyday, which renders them unplayable. So they'd either leave the tape in there and would leave it in a hot car, or they would eject it, and when they would eject it, it would look like this. And rather than rewinding it back to the very beginning, a very, very common mistake people would make is either throwing the cassette up on the dashboard and just leaving it there to sit and bake in the sun all day. And that's horrible, because then you'll never be able to listen to that again. And they would also leave it with the brown magnetic tape also exposed, like this. Or sometimes I've even heard stories of people leaving these places like that. And they would go out and about and run their errands and just leave the cassette in the hot car to get destroyed all day long. This is a very big no-no. Okay? Now, here's what you want to do. You want to take your cassette, you want to have a Bic pen like this. Here's what you do. Until it looks like this, okay? Because you want to put it in the case to preserve it, and then rather than throwing it up on the dash, just take it with you. It's small and portable. That's why people love these to begin with. Just take it with you. Make sure it's rewound back to the very beginning, okay? Because if you leave it like this, okay, over time, if you leave it and it looks like this, and that brown tape is exposed, what that's going to do is, so if you leave it looking like this, and it's not rewound back to the beginning, and in the middle, the tape looks like this, okay, this is mistake numero uno. You never want to leave your cassettes like this. So you want to take a Bic pen, and you want to rewind it back to the beginning, to where the tape leader is coming across. Okay? Journey's Greatest Hits. Okay, we talked about this. We talked about this in how I preserve my Walkman. We talked about this in how I preserve the cassette deck in my room. Same thing goes for your car. You want to take that tape cleaning solution, right? You want to take that tape care cleaning solution that I talked about. And you want to clean the tape heads at least once a month. So after it's done cleaning the one side, you eject it, flip it out, and repeat that same process on the other side, just like we did with my Walkman, shown here, and just like what we did with my tape deck at home. If you want to keep these things alive, do your research. Take good care of them. Okay? Don't leave your batteries inside your Sony Walkman. Don't leave tapes inside your Sony Walkman if you're not actively using it. Because if they look like this, and you just leave them in there like that, that's not a great way to store your tapes. Don't leave them in the car player. Always make sure that you put them in their proper case, like this, and that they are rewound completely back to the very beginning. You know, many people ask me what my secret is to how I've been able to preserve 40-plus-year-old cassettes and still listen to them in current day. And that's because I usually use my phone, so that way I'm not listening to these cassettes all the time. I don't overuse them, right? Ugh. Whew, look at me, I'm sweating already. And I make sure I take good care of them. Here we got Billy Joel's Greatest Hits. See, look here. Never, ever, ever, ever go anywhere and try and listen to a cassette without having one of these on standby, right? Because heaven forbid this thing gets eaten, right? And I would not recommend the person driving trying and doing this. If you have someone sitting next to you, have them eject the tape, and just like it's shown in this picture right here, take up tape slack by turning the pen in the direction of the arrow, like that. Insert, and then directions. Always place cassette in its case after use. Do not touch tape with fingers. Maintain cassette by cleaning your cassette recorder periodically. In case of tape slack, ensure that it is taken up first before loading in cassette recorder. Irregular tape movement may result if this is not done. To prevent to prevent your cassette from being erased or re-recorded, break off the prevention plug on top of the cassette. And then when storing your cassettes, avoid direct exposure to sunlight and magnetism. Neither should this cassette be kept in a dusty, hot, or humid places. Okay? I'm going to get ready to head home now, and I'm going to show you guys how your cassettes should be stored if you want to maintain them for long term. Not only does this car have a cassette deck in the year 2025, but how many of you guys remember these? Right? The cars with the windows you had to crank down manually. Oh yeah. Old school. I love this. I remember riding around in this car with my grandpa when I was just a kid, and I remember having so much fun just doing this and then rolling it back up. I don't remember listening to any cassette tapes in this vehicle, but what I do remember is listening to the radio. Now, here's what we're gonna do, right? We got our tapes. They're completely rewound. Make sure we got everything. Got my backpack. See, we ejected our tape. We have rewound it back to the very beginning, and we did not leave it up on the dashboard. Like a good cassette owner should do. Take care of your stuff, people. If you want your stuff to last, take care of it. Lock that. Make sure I have the key. Yep. Alright, we're gonna get ready to head home now, and I'm gonna show you guys how to store your cassettes. Alright, you guys, I am back home, and I'm gonna show you guys how I store my cassettes, so that way they last longer. For starters, all of them should be completely rewound, completely back to the beginning. There should be no magnetic tape exposed at all. So it should look like this. There should be no visible tape coming across any of these. There should be no visible tape coming across these three squares at the bottom. 1, 2, 3. So it should always be rewound back to the beginning, nice and tight. Okay. Secondly, clean your tape players and clean them regularly. Do not use rubbing alcohol. Rubbing alcohol will dry out the pinch roller. The pinch roller is that rubber wheel that grabs the tape and pulls it in either direction. So bear with me. Blockbuster Video said it with VHSs. They give you a fine if you didn't rewind your video cassette. Same thing goes for audio cassettes. If you don't rewind them after you're done listening to them, whether it be listening to the front side or the back side, it's going to cause problems later on down the road. And it's going to shorten the lifespan of your cassette. So right now, I've decided I wanted to listen to something else. So I'm just taking a couple of minutes and fast forwarding to the other side before I put this one away. Another thing, these are Bluetooth speakers. So if I don't want to just listen to cassettes all the time, I can still stream that same music that's on a cassette, but I can do it digitally and I can send it to these speakers. And here is the remote for this one right here is the remote for the speakers. So it's got a couple of different inputs. It's got RCA input. It's got line in, Bluetooth, and aux in. So that's like 3 different ways of hooking things up. So that's another way I preserve my cassettes. So now that that is rewound, back to the very beginning, we're going to put the cassette in its case. We are going to then store it in this drawer. And another thing I do for my cassettes, I have the CDs as well. To listen to in my car. So you want to keep cassettes out of direct sunlight. You want to keep them away from magnets. You want to rewind them. You want to make sure that they're stored in a climate controlled area. What else? Yeah, there's a lot of do's and don'ts when it comes to these. Also, I'm very glad I got my vintage 1979 Walkman because it sounds so much better compared to my very first one. Take your tapes out of your Walkman and take your batteries out of your Walkman if you're not using them. I'm not sure what else to say, but I got 2 videos to show you guys. The first video is about the death of the cassette in the late 80s going into the 90s. And the second video is about the comeback, the resurgence of the cassette. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully you learned a thing or two. Thank you guys so much for watching. I look forward to putting out more content for you guys. Please remember to like this video. Comment down below if you remember listening to music on cassette, if you collect cassettes, if you remember the windows with the cranks that you have to roll down. Let me know you guys' memories down below. Love you guys. Enjoy the videos.
News. You hear it first. With some national retail operations like the 229-store Camelot chain dropping long-play discs from their inventories entirely, the death of the vinyl record would seem to be inevitable, if not imminent. But is it really? And is the attachment that many people still feel for vinyl LPs just old fogey sentiment? Or is there something more at stake here? Let's find out.
Back in
in 1983, the year that CDs were introduced in this country, vinyl was already losing ground to cassettes. Fewer than 210 million LPs were sold that year, compared to nearly 237 million cassette albums. The upstart CD configuration accounted for only 800,000 units. By 1988, though, cassette sales had nearly doubled, CDs had exploded, and the market for vinyl LPs had shrunk by nearly 2/3. In response to this consumer defection, a number of major record stores have removed vinyl albums from their shelves altogether, and other retailers are expected to eventually follow suit. So, is vinyl dead? And if so, do consumers have any say in its demise? Let's ask some of the people who actually make records.
There's something nice, about getting that great big cover and holding it in your hand. But that's probably just my age showing, because I think, if you're just used to getting a CD or something that big, maybe you don't miss it.
CDs are just too hypeful. Records are maybe 15% now. Cassettes, 20%, 25%, and the majority of the rest would be CDs. I mean, I'd say, 60, 65%, 70% sometimes.
The declining number of vinyl buyers are sending a bottom line message that record companies hear loud and clear.
Motown has canceled almost every album. Their whole catalog is gone. All the albums are gone. Polygram just discontinued about 300 albums, and Warner Brothers is going to follow. MCA has just canceled 200 albums.
Executives at several major companies, among them CBS, Warner Brothers, MCA, and Island, told MTV that vinyl loyalists shouldn't panic. Not yet, anyway. As long as there are millions of turntables out there, they say, their labels will continue producing vinyl versions of new albums along with the more popular cassettes and CDs. But what about older albums, the catalog classics so dear to the hearts of so many long-time record-buying fans?
That will be dictated by sales. In other words, if we can continue to press long-playing discs without losing money, we will continue to do that.
MTV
New album.
Taylor Swift might have been holding vinyl when she unveiled her 12th album, but she's also selling a sparkly orange cassette, a sign that even this archaic format can have its own new era.
My mother was about to throw this away. Cassette tapes.
The data company Luminate found in 2023 more than 436,000 cassettes were sold in the U.S., way up from 80,000 in 2015. People who weren't even born when cassettes were the norm are feeding the rebound, with 9% of Gen Z music listeners purchasing a cassette in the past year.
I think cassettes are the most human music format. And part of the reason is you don't skip around from song to song. You don't fast forward or rewind. And you're just kind of surrendering to the music as the artist designed it to flow from song to song.
Rough Trade Record Store in New York actually has a cassette section.
Cassette's my favorite analog medium personally.
Why is that?
Well, they're light, they're portable, they're relatively inexpensive, and if you still want that analog sound, you got it.
And the cassettes sold here aren't used, they're new. Olivia Alexander's sister collects them.
I was confused because she doesn't have a cassette player.
So she can't listen to them?
No, I've been working on getting her a cassette player for either her birthday or Christmas, but
At least she can display the cassettes like trophies, something it can't do with streaming. Though when hundreds of feet of delicate tape are wrapped around two spools, snags are inevitable.
If the tape gets out, you have to take a pencil and put it through the thing and rewind it and hope it sounds good.
Still, cassettes have been loyal companions over the years.
I think we'll go with a little Bohemian Rhapsody, gentlemen.
Whether in a car in Wayne's World, or tucked in a portable Walkman in Guardians of the Galaxy, or hoisted high above your head in a blaring boombox that doesn't double as a phone, cassette reminds us sometimes it's nice to rewind. Cassettes still aren't as popular as vinyl and CDs are right now. Taylor Swift's last album, The Tortured Poets Department, offered 4 different cassette versions. In all, Luminate says she sold about 21,000 copies. It's a mere sliver, of course, of her overall sales. But those who buy them are just true diehards. And musicians like Swift and Chappell Roan and Sabrina Carpenter are giving them what they want. We've been playing with the cassettes, even just opening it, which is, I forgot, is hard. Sometimes you have to kind of get it open, but it is just like...
It's amazing how something becomes so valueless so quick at a point in time. And then all of a sudden you just let time go by, then it becomes really expensive again. Like that boombox costs $150. You know, that's something you might have thrown out.
And it doesn't work.
We might have to try some new batteries.
We forgot to plug it in.
What was your first cassette tape?
My first cassette, I remember it was Bruce Springsteen, Born in the USA, and then Starship, that we built this city. How about you guys?
Well, we were talking about, I think
mine was Little
Journey.
Creatures by Talking Heads. It came out in '85. I was 12, and I had a Walkman.
So you were always cool. The Talking Heads, like you didn't have an embarrassing first tape.
I mean, that's what I remember. I am who I am, Savannah.
We're going to try to get this working for the third hour.
I know.
Let me see that. What doesn't work about it?
We don't know.
It's the batteries.
Okay.
It's the batteries. If anyone can get it working, you can. What was your first cassette tape, Dylan Dreyer?
I was trying to think about it. I was 10. It was Color Me Bad, a single. The singles were a lot cheaper than a full. It was.
What did your parents think about Love You Up? That's the radio version.
Oh, yeah. That
Love You Up. I've never heard that
Remember when you would open the cassette and if you saw the lyrics on the inside? That was special.
Yeah. It's all coming back to me. Back to me now. Okay, sorry,
I think about all of it.
Hey, thanks for watching. And don't forget, you can catch The Today Show every morning on NBC or take Today when you're on the go. Just follow the Today podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.